Hi guys, happy Sunday. It's Clarice. I'm just gonna wait a little bit to see people coming in and then we can begin once we have a couple of people in here with us. I'm just gonna quickly get up my YouTube on my laptop so I can just keep track. And then once I have that, oh, I see, okay, I finally see my screen. Everything is here. Okay, we have 11 people already. Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Sunday. Glad you guys can make it. Today we're going to do a session based on this week's tutorial, which is wild florals. So we're kind of keeping up with the trend of dainty, soft, touch of color, more green, thin lines. So it might be easy, it might also be super hard, but this is somewhat what I had done for this week, and it's kind of evolved from there. Hi, Julie from Wisconsin. Hi, Susan. It's afternoon here, so good afternoon. Just gonna give it a little bit of more time before we begin. Just to let you guys know, I will be using my silver black velvet in the 8, the 4, and I'm keeping my Squirrel Mop brush in the 1. I feel like I'll be using a lot of the 4 just to get the thin lines. So yes. Julie says, looks like you're going to be doing lovely flowers again. Thank you, Julie. That's really kind. I am going to try, most certainly. For my paper, I am just getting my Canson Watercolor sheet. So let me just rip that off. Here's my paper. I have my water ready. I have my paper towel ready. And I'm going to tell you what colors we're sort of going to be using. For most of my sessions, I kind of just go along with the flow. So even though I plan, sometimes it doesn't go as per plan, but I can give you an idea of the colors I plan to use. I will be using a lot of pinks, reds, and purples and oranges. Pinks, reds, purples, oranges, and obviously the greens for the greenery. I'm gonna just quickly, hi Babs, good morning. Hi Kate. Becky, please plant more roses. Yes, you know, roses are totally my thing, but today we're going to be doing the more dainty flowers, wild flowers. Virginia, hey, so glad so many people are able to make it and you guys are actually interacting. That's like massively huge. I always get excited when people are interacting online. Susan, yes, I know it's afternoon, eh? Flies by really quickly. Did you guys get the tornado? We had a tornado here like for a few minutes. Hi Lydia from Scarborough. Diane, hi Diane. And Third Eye Open, love your work. I'm learning a lot. Oh, I'm so glad. I love hearing that you guys are learning from me because I always think these are so basic. I think everyone knows it, but it's good to know and read this. Hi Cindy, thank you. All right, okay. So I think this is good. We'll begin. I was thinking of doing a wreath, but I think what we'll do is we'll just have a bunch of flowers coming from here, and then the stems can be like very tendrily and kind of going all over the place. And like I said earlier, we are going to be using a mixture of Madder Lake, so this is St. Petersburg, the Madder Lake English Red, Violet, and for the orange, we will use the Red Ochre Raw Sienna. And then for my greens, I really love the green that St. Petersburg has. But because I've created a big hole by just dipping right into the green, my next favorite is mixing the umber with the emerald or the yellowish green. And that gives me a similar deep foresty green to that. So these are the color combinations I will be using as we go along. So feel free to kind of use what I am telling you, or you can absolutely try your own variations of colors. I encourage that just so you guys can kind of formulate your own way of thinking as you are learning, as opposed to just, you know, copying and trying to mimic. So yeah, I will leave that up to you guys. So to begin, we're going to start off with doing a couple of florals right in the center, and then we'll kind of extend into the tendril-y versions of it. So I will be using, for the first few florals, we will make them versions of orange and pink, so kind of like the poppies slash patience, I think. No, pansies, not patience. Pansies. All right. So I'm just going to take out my Madder Lake red and keep it right here, just so I have that handy. And I'll also take out the umber, and this way you guys can at least see me dip into the colors, and you won't see my palette because it's off to the side, but at least you see this. So it should help you if you're trying to follow along with using the same colors. All right. And I will also use, in addition to this, the quinacridone rose from Daniel Smith. So as and when I dip into that, I will keep you forewarned. And oh, last but not least, I am also going to add in this color. I believe it is Mars Brown. So it's a version of brown. So keeping that over here as well. And we will begin. So like I said, we're going to start off with the Madder Lake, English red right here. This is not Madder Lake, it's the English red. And I'm just going to mix some off to the side onto my palette. My palette is massively huge, guys. This is how big it is, so forgive me if I cannot constantly show it to you. I also have some orange already pre-mixed on here, which I will kind of use for this. The amount of color we need for these florals are a lot more minimal compared to the bigger blooms that I normally do, like the roses and the peonies and stuff. But yeah, so I just have enough mixed up on the side. So using my number 4, I'm getting some of my English red, and I am going to lay down like so. So I'm just going to press down my brush, and I'm just going to do this motion of going back and forth and creating almost like the form of a petal. And then I want to sweep down all my color to the center of this. I'm going to dip my brush to get some water on it, and then I'm going to create another petal. And it's okay to kind of get different variations in size. Dipping my brush again to get some water, and I'm creating another petal onto over here. So you want to just go around and add a little bit of uneven lines to the center, so it gives you that illusion of light and dark, shadow, that sort of thing. And then I'm just playing with the corners, the edges, so that it looks a little less jaggedy. I like my edges to be a lot smoother. And then I'm just washing off all the color from my paintbrush, and I'm just going to sweep down in certain areas. And again, this will create a nice light and dark effect, or shadowy effect, onto your florals. It gives it a little more depth as opposed to just making it just flat with one color. We have used only one color here. At this point, I'm just going to go back and get some darker red, and I'm just going to daintily add it to the centers here, and this just makes it flare up really nicely. And again, you're giving it some sort of depth. I'm just touching it up in certain areas to kind of give it that uneven colored look. There we go. And then once we have that, I hate washing the paint off continuously. So I'm just going to bring in my number 8, which also has a fairly nice pointed tip to it. And I will dip in to get some of my violet, which I didn't add on here. So let me bring that one out really quickly. My violet's right here. So I'm going to use the violet for the centers, just so it's pretty. And instead of using black, I mean. And I'm trying to be extra careful to not touch the red too much, because I don't want it flaring too much into the red and giving it like a purple look. If it touches it a little bit, that's okay. I don't want to get it too much though, so just try not to as best as you can, and then let it go. So once we have this one, we can do a couple of similar ones. I'm going to do another similar one because I have that color on my number 4 already. And this version, this floral will be facing upward. So literally all I'm doing is just bringing downward strokes, or making downward strokes onto the paper, and then kind of creating another one this way, pulling down the color to the center, touching up your edges any which way you would like to shape these. And then finally just adding a little bit of water to my brush, and then doing one more on this side, and then closing it up down this way. So again, very loose, less detail. You can shake off the water and then just push down the color if you feel like it's too much. Same thing here, if you don't want it to be as overpowering as the other one. And then just going back in to get some darker red, adding it to just a little bit of the edges on the inside, so it gives that flare or that monochromatic effect. And then once I have that, just going to get some of the violet, and I'm going to add that in the center. Just a tad bit. And now see, it's flared up a little more than I like, so I'm just going to take my paper towel and just wipe it off. Or if you like the flares, you can just kind of leave it in. That's totally up to you. So yeah, so this purple over here flared up a bit too much while I was dabbing, so I'm just going to go back in and add more of the red. So it flares up, and then I'm going to leave it at that. And then let's do one more of the red, because I like to do mine in 3s, and then we can move on to the orange versions. So again, we're doing the same routine, so this is repetitive and nice for those who like to learn through repetition. So like I mentioned earlier, we're just adding the brush flat down and just giving it that motion all the way to the sides, and then pushing down the color to the center, dipping the brush into water. We're going to get a nice lighter version of the petal, so just keep doing that all around. Then we do another one. Until we close up the circle. And then I'm just adding the strokes to the center so that they give it that nice jaggedy edge. And then shaking off all the color and water, I'm just going to comb it down and bring all the color down to the center. And then I want to give it the darker center with the red, so I'm dipping the tip of my number 4 into the red, and I'm just lightly touching the edges. And then I'm not going to wash this off. I'll just get some purple right with the red on it, and let's just try something different. And I'm just adding a few spots of purple, and I'm not going to make it as intense as the other ones, and I'll just leave it at that. So you guys have a couple of different variations and intensities that we have here, and you can decide what you like and go with that. So we have a couple of dainty florals here. I'm going to move on to the orange versions now of these, and for that I am taking the red ochre, and I'm also going to have some of the raw sienna, which is this orange. This is what they look like. And I'll start off with the one which is raw sienna, so it's less bright compared to the ochre. And I will make these, again, we're looking at very loose petals, and we'll make them in 5s again, but I'm going to try and make these a lot smaller than the red ones that we have, so they don't overpower. So I'll do some over here, so I'm just pressing down. That's a lot of color, so I'm just going to also bring in my Squirrel Mop brush at this time, and just with some water on it, I'm going to spread out this petal. And all I did was added some watery strokes next to the color stroke that I added on here. And now that I have this effect happening here, what I will do is just add one extra stroke here and then just one over there, so it looks like it's on the other side. Adding some dots as well to make it look like that nice loosey effect. And then I'll go back to my, you know what, I need to introduce my, I cannot see my Neptune Princeton here, but I'll use the number 8 with the silver black velvet. And while this is still damp, I'm going to get in some of the green to form a stem, just so I can get it nice and smooth and blended in. So I'm mixing some of my umber with my light green to give me a green that I kind of like. So it's like a lighter green, but not as dark as the forest green that I normally use. Just making sure that it's a lot darker. So I'm just adding some strokes to kind of touch some of the petals, and then once I have that, I'm just going to take my Squirrel Mop brush. Feel free to use another brush that's a lot thinner, but I'm just going to use the mop brush to use the tip and get, drawing from the color I've laid down here. I'm just going to add a stem in that manner because I don't want it to be too dark again. So I'm just pushing the color all the way down into this line, and then adding a couple of like tendrily looking things along the edges, and then using this brush, which I had the orange on, I'm just going to create a couple of more of these orange looking buds before we move on. And for these, I'm just literally doing something like this. So kind of similar to what I did previously. I'm just pushing it down. I want it to be soft, loose, and if you can put in some white space, absolutely do it. I missed some white space here. And here's where you can add in a hint of the darker orange. You can kind of just go in and add it in the center. I need a little more water for this. And again, by adding something like this, you're fleshing out the reds from here. And it's just a nice addition to a flat lay of color. I'm just taking this brush to take away some of the color that I have here. So just pushing down some of the color from some of these petals to give it a faint, dainty look. And now again, we can use the same method to create more of these florals. So we could also just do some over here because I don't want to have it just concentrated in one area. So I'll just do some over here. And for this version, I'm just going to have 2 little layers of color, 2 strokes of color, and then have the extension of green. So I'm using the green that I have on here. And I've washed off the color on my number 4. So let's see if I can get a nicer, thinner line than that. So I'm just drawing from the color here with only water on my brush. And I'm just kind of giving it direction. Kind of went over the red flower, but that's okay. There we go. So something very light that extends from the center, isn't sharp, that works. So let's do this again so you can see how you can get that light effect in your tendrily stems as opposed to a thicker one like this one here. So let's do let's use this one to put down the color. So let's do another of the orangey florals over here, and I'll make it tiny again. So, or I'll try to at least. So I'm just adding 1 stroke, 2 strokes, 3 strokes, and I've left some white space in between this time. And if you feel like the water is too much, just dab. Before I move on to doing the effect that I was telling you about, I just want to add a little bit of the darker orange in there. Maybe just add it as a sweep down here. And I think this is more of a corally orange more than anything else. I'm just adding some dots to it. Alright, so washing the orange off, I'm going to add some green to the edge for this. It doesn't have to touch if you don't want it to touch. And then using just water on my number 4, I am going to touch my green and then just, okay, push all the green down and then just create a thin sweep. And there you have like a really nice thin fading off kind of stem. Sadly, I'm not at the stage yet where I can just with the flick of my wrist create like this really pretty arc, but that only comes with practice. And since I'm only just getting into these pretty florals, I think it'll take some time. So this can also happen when you have too much green intersecting with the orange. So just be aware of that. So in this case, you can always take a brush and just sweep down the color. And that's one way of kind of saving the floral if you wish, if this happens. So try that in, I guess, any of your paintings if it happens. Then you can always touch some orange on top of it or leave the green. Any of that really works. I'm just reading comments really quickly. Yes, Mel, Squirrel Mop brushes are really worth it, and they are a game changer when you're trying to get some nice organic shapes. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Glad you like the sweet little flowers. Yeah, the tiny buds, it's usually the simplest versions that make the image even nicer, I find. Anne-Marie, no, I am not using a reference photo. I am just kind of using what I know from the florals that I've previously done, and I'm kind of creating my own little version here. But the idea was to have florals done first, and then we're kind of gonna, the bigger florals first, and then start off with the smaller, tinier, tendrily type plants like this that go around it. So, yeah, so that's where we're at. Okay, so moving on. I think I wanted to do one more lighter pink floral, and then we can sort of do the little tinier edges and bits. So let me do the pink. So for the pink, again, I'm using the English red, but I'm just using it very watered down. So I'm getting a very, very light pink, you know, just to make sure that I don't get it matching this pink too much, or red. I am going to mix in some of the Madder Lake red with it, or maybe even just use the Madder Lake because it's a different pink, and that might work. If you guys actually have a pink, suggest using that as opposed to using the red. I just prefer using my reds as my pinks, so keep that in mind. Alright, so for this, I will use my number 8 this time, and what I'm going to start off by doing is just dipping it in my water, and just with the tip of it getting a tiny amount of the pink, and then I'm going to go ahead and get some of the color down on paper. And so I'm just adding it this way. So same, we're pretty much doing the same motion as we did for all the other florals, but we're just adding it circular. We're not giving it a break, going all around. You can leave some white space if you wish, and uneven edges. It's up to you how you want to close off your edges. If you want to keep them open or give them a nice shape, it's up to you. So kind of like that, and then you can take a brush if you wish and sweep away the color to the center, just like I've been doing for the other ones. And it gives it that softer feel, and it's a lot more of a light pink than these here. And then I think I have, let me see, what do I have on here? Yep, that's the pink. So I'm going to get some of the pink red that I have, mix it in with a bit of the purple, and without touching the edges, I'm going to try and do a very light ring around it, leaving white space in between. And there we go, leaving it at that. This is all the flower is going to entail. White space in between, pink petals, and then purple little ring on the inside. So we'll do a couple of these. So again, I'm getting my number 8 I've washed it with water, and just the tip of it has some of the pink. And now I'm going to go ahead and do my little motiony lay of color, and this one is going to face upward, and I'm pulling down all the color to the center. Here's another petal, again pulling down all the color to the center, and we're leaving it at that. That's another floral. And then again, repetition is everything at this point, so we're doing the same motion again. So this floral will have on this side here, and let's have it facing slightly this way. So notice how they're getting lighter. I want it to be lighter so that it doesn't look like an image where every floral is shouting for attention. But you have your hierarchy where your darkest ones get your attention first, and then the lighter ones come later. It's just like in design. So there we have that one. And I have my purple already. I have less white space here, so I have to be very careful about my little purple blend on this one. But again, these are loose florals, so if they blend too much like they are right here, that's okay. So I have 3, and I think we can end with, yeah, we can end with one more, and this can just be off to the side here, you know, more facing downwards almost. Hey guys, sorry. Let me try and get this. There we go. There we go. Sorry guys, internet seemed to lag, so I just turned it on
to data, and here we are again. You didn't miss much. I just ended up doing this right here, and then I noticed that it was kind of buffering and not really going anywhere. So continuing on with it. Like I was saying, we're just going to start on with the greenery at this point, and we're moving on. Okay, so for the greenery stuff, we're doing a combination of the yellowish green and the umber that I have from St. Petersburg. And then we also have this nice little brown happening, so we can use this guy for something a little more twiggy happening in our composition here. So I'm just gonna mix my greens. You guys feel free to use any green that you like, and we will start. So I'm just mixing to make sure I have enough of the green. And I don't want, so this is how my green looks right now. It's quite dark, it's quite potent, but I want to use a very light version of it. So I'm going to try and put as much water as I can, so I'm not getting a dark, dark, dark stuff. Okay, so alright, so now that I have these mixed up, I'm just going to go ahead and do this version first. I just want to make sure my greens are good. Yep, they're fine. Yeah, so I'm going to do these pink ones first, and these are really fun because they're all going to be on one stem. This is very light. So I'm just going to get a tad bit more. You don't have to completely attach them. You can just add it very lightly and add and leave the leave white space in between, just like I have over here. And then we're just going to do the same thing over here on this one. And if you feel like you've added too much color, again, just take a spare brush you have on the side, and right when it's damp, just kind of wash away or pull away the color, and that really helps. And this way you don't have anything stark. So that's one way of fixing that. And now these seem to have a lot of like tendrily little things on their on the stem, so we're just gonna add extensions of little, they look like buds almost. So literally you're just adding an extension and you're adding little buds in a very loose format. And then you can also go in and add additional versions of these buds, but using a brush that has only water on it. And this will give you a nice light and dark effect. Just looking for my number 8 brush right here. So I've washed it off. I only have water on it, and I'm just going to add, make sure you don't have too much water. I'm just going to add a couple of dots to the side, or just make motions of leaves. And then it just gives it that loosey effect, like there's more happening. So same thing we're gonna do along as we go over here. We'll have another one extending, some more green. Now the thing with this is, again, it's getting that consistency between the water and color mix, and sometimes it takes a while, but don't give up, so keep trying. Now this one, this is going to be a nice fun twirl to this. So I'm going to have this twirl this way. So I told you a lot of them will have these nice little fun twirly looks and feels. So done that, we'll just do a couple of these little green things extending from it to the side as well. And literally feel free to kind of be the boss to decide how much greenery or twigs you want to add to this version of it. Like I said, another way to get nice little effects of greenery added to this light and dark is just by going in with a brush and with just water on it. You're doing the exact same motions as you would if you were creating more petals or just creating one of these. And it gives you that soft fade. That's how you get that. So make sure you add a couple of green, then go in with your brush with just water on it, and then complete the rest. And then I like to kind of end off with adding a couple of like trails of green to it so it looks like it's really fading off. And then same thing we're going to do with this big little tendril here. This one's going to have extensions as well, just like that. And you're just trying to be as light as possible and not too detailed in your painting. And like I mentioned previously, go in with your brush and you can kind of just add like very watery versions of these green, what would you call them? I guess the berries or the buds. Yeah, more buds than berries. So I'm literally just trying to have the darkest versions of the green on the center, and then the lighter, as they spread out, it gets lighter, if that makes any sense. So just adding something like that, and then going in with your brush with water and just kind of trying to spread it out so the green looks like it's spreading out. All right, so we have that, something like that. So that's how we're going to be doing pretty much all of it. All right, guys, sorry, I am not quite sure what happened, but it seemed like the camera just shut down, and I had to restart all of that. But I'm gonna try and do this, and hopefully the camera doesn't shut down again. But if it does, I think what I will do is I'll just record this, the rest of it, and put it up as the video. So for those of you who can't be bothered with all of this on and off, you can just catch the video later. I promise I will not leave this unfinished. Okay, so let's zoom through this. Okay, so we were doing the green tendrils. We're continuing with all of that. I'm gonna create some joining the red florals. And so for that, we're doing, we're just going to create a few little tendrils kind of falling out this way. And again, adding these little edges to the stems. And adding little buds as well. Because I like the buds. Adding the buds seem like a nice touch to it as well. And like I mentioned, just go in with your brush and just water and just lighten up the areas that you feel are too stark and dark, because we want to make this nice and loose and not really dark or detailed. All right, so that's how we do that. I'm gonna add a bit of brown to this green, and I'm going to add some leaves at this point. And so we'll just add like some that go this way, and I'm just adding simple thin leaves, almost like in the sweet peas. And I know these little suckers grow in my backyard, on the lawn as weed. So if anyone knows a good remedy for how you can get rid of these, please let me know. And they kind of just spread out. They're pretty to look at, but they're so annoying to pull out, and can't stand it. But I guess we all have things that test and try us, and that's how we learn in life. So again, use your discretion and see where you want to add these little tendril looking leaf things, and yeah, have fun with placement. I know a lot of you complain about composition, and while I cannot really dictate to you what is good composition and what isn't, I can say this, that you put in all your main florals in the center, and then you have your outer little complementary ones going around it, and that really helps it. It helps with the eye, like bringing focus to where you need things to be focused on. Again, I'm adding some leaves over here, and I'm just gonna let them kind of go at this point, and I'll add a couple of the similar leaves at the top as well. And by top I mean protruding over here on this end, and I'm just gonna have it go this way. And now watch what I'm gonna do the same water with color effect brushes, brush effect that I was talking about all this time. I'm adding a leaf here, I'm gonna add one more here, and then I'm going to take the brush that I have here with just water on it. I'm just extending, touching this leaf, bringing some of the green down and making another leaf there. Same thing here. And that, just like that, you have like a thin, soft leaf happening. And then when you add more color where the water is already placed, you get that nice flow, soft effect happening. So try that, guys. Try it in different manners and see how it works out for you. And yeah, I just saw the circle happening, so I wondered if I went offline again. Now I'm slightly paranoid about this offline business. Yeah, let's do a couple more of these and then we can kind of wrap up, because I find this is pretty enough. We don't need to have too much detail happening. We'll do a nice little stem coming out this way and bending off this way to have a flower protruding upward. And I'm just adding this detail at the bottom for it. And notice how I left some white space in between. So for this one, I'll use the super light pink that I used up here. And this way it ties in with all the florals we have. And I'm just adding like a fan of pink. So I'm just using strokes to add petals and leaving it at that. There we go. Super light, super easy, and loose. And I'm just brushing off some. There we go. This keeps happening, guys. I'm really sorry for the inconvenience. Not quite sure what else to do. If you guys prefer for me to just do a video and then post it later and you can catch it, please just let me know in the comments, because I really don't want this to be annoying for you. And I'm trying. So let me know in the comments, in the chat, what you guys would prefer. Should we kind of continue trying this, or would you prefer if I just do a recording? We don't have too much to go through, but I would like to not rush this. So let me know. I'm just reading the comments right now. Zanette says, all good. Anyone else want to try? Okay. All right, so let me see. You know what? I have a feeling this is going to happen again. So let me end this here then. Let's end this at this being part 1, and then I am good to do a part 2 version of this, and then we will I'll post it for you guys, and then I'll send a message out on Instagram once this is ready. It should be on today, so you can continue with this. I'm so sorry for this, guys. I really, like, this has never happened before. I know last week I was having internet issues, but this week it seems like it's gadget issues. So thanks anyways for joining, and I will send out a post when we are live again. All right, guys, bye. Happy Sunday. Hope you enjoyed this so far.